If you have been wondering if your end-of-day drinky poo that was once an occasional treat has become more and more of a habit during COVID, or if you're just noticing that that glass of something that you're looking forward to at night is leading to something you are not looking forward to on the scale the next morning, well, hold the ice. Because in this episode of Thin Thinking, we are going to talk straight up about alcohol and weight loss, and how to use your mind to begin shaking and stirring up a habit that may be getting in the way of your feeling good about yourself, your weight, and your health. So hide the corkscrew and come on in to the Thin Thinking podcast. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Sound good? Let's get started. Hello and happy February. How are you doing? Are you ready for February? February is just one of those months. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a little good and it's a little bad. Deep in winter. I know I'm a big baby, Southern California, but winter is winter and it's all relative. But it's dark. And that's hard. It's dark in the morning. It's dark later in the day. For those of us with seasonal affective disorder, sometimes that can be an issue. Thank goodness that, there is Southern California sunshine, so that I do rely upon. But for those of you in the darker states or the places in the world where it gets dark, it's dark a good part of the day, hello, our friends way up north, in the north of Scotland, in the north of Canada, where daylight is just a little slim sliver of a couple of hours. I feel you. I feel you hard. So it's like, we're deep in the middle of the winter. And February is also the month of Valentine's Day, right? Valentine's Day. Now, that's another interesting thing, right? It's all about that romantic love. But there's so much pressure. I'll tell you, I remember I have this just real thing. It's not for or against Valentine's Day, but when I was a young lady back in the day when I was waitressing all the time, I waitressed during many, many Valentine's Day. And a lot of times when I, didn't have a boyfriend, I was the love without a significant other. But waitressing during Valentine's Day was always so interesting because you literally, first of all, everybody goes out on Valentine's Day, right? And they jack up the prices. And, us in the restaurant business, we would always roll our eyes and laugh because it was just so not fun. There were long lines. The waiters, because it was so busy, were harried and surly. The cooks in the kitchen, they were just slapping food on the plate. I mean, it was probably the least romantic atmosphere, to go out and eat out. And the pressure, I would watch these couples sitting across from each other in the restaurant, just kind of under all that pressure to have a good time and be romantic. I know I sound a little cynical, but I just, Valentine's Day, I never have erased that image from my mind. And I've never, ever, gone out on Valentine's Day with my husband. It's just like, no, we'll do something nice. We'll light a fire if it's cold enough, and we'll, snuggle in front of the fire and make a nice healthy dinner. But yeah, no. We avoid the whole going out thing. Now, if you're going out, that's fine. But I think it's, I was just ruined by all those years of waitressing on Valentine's Day. So one thing I'm going to request that you do this month is that you love on yourself every day this month, not just Valentine's Day, but just every single day. And one way that you may be able to love on yourself is to shift your relationship with alcohol if it has become a problem. Now, it's very interesting because I've had a really interesting perspective of COVID being, a somewhat person who is in the helping arts. And, I've gotten a lot more calls from people who are like, can you help me curb my relationship with alcohol because it's become a problem during COVID. I mean, I don't think it's any secret. I think we're all pretty aware of the fact that, when we got locked down, the alcohol cupboards all got unlocked, and people sat in front of their Netflix with their cocktail, and it was just this reward, snuggly, zone out, drown our sorrows, numb out sort of fest where we were, kind of condoned to, just go for it. So I have and then of course the holidays, we've come off the tail of the holidays, and there is that big tradition of the dry January. In my monthly mastery membership, I have this group of people who've gone through the shift weight mastery process. And every 6 weeks or so, we do a challenge to sharpen our skills and to keep things interesting in the group. And for instance, just before the holidays, from December 15th to January 1st, basically, we did an exercise challenge, which was awesome because we had to exercise. Well, it was if you accepted the challenge, you exercised every day, during the holiday season, which was awesome for us all because it reminded us to stay healthy and fit and move, and it was fantastic. I loved that challenge. So some of the members asked if they could host a challenge in the group. They wanted to host it, and they wanted to call it the Mindful Drinking Love Your Liver Challenge. So it wasn't dry January. It wasn't about not drinking, but they wanted just to explore in the group, just creating a more conscious relationship with alcohol, because they were beginning to notice that even though one of these members had been maintaining their ideal weight for over a year, and the other is almost 20 pounds from her goal, that they were beginning to feel like the daily imbibing or every other day imbibing was starting to either, one was saying that it was probably getting in the way of her continuing her weight release, and the other was saying it's just, it was something that had crept into her life and she wanted to really put a new boundary around it. And people found often the people in our group, so a certain amount of people in our group took on this mindful drinking challenge and found that their stalled weight loss got a kickstart, and that they were sleeping better, and that they were just feeling in general better about themselves. There's this thing about, you choose what owns you, and often with addictive or soft addictions, we can manage them until they start managing us. And it's that, and it's nothing against you or the person who has gotten under the thumb of whatever that thing is, but it's always an awesome time to recognize it and reassess and lovingly move forward and move out of it. And so that's, what I kind of want to walk through today is a way to kind of just, if This isn't about not drinking. This is just more about getting some mindfulness around your drinking and maybe giving you some thin thinking to alter or change your drinking habits if they have they're drinking you, not you're drinking it. So let's look at, like why would we do this for weight management? Like how is alcohol? I don't think I'm going to be telling you anything you don't know, but I'm just going to do a quick review of alcohol and, why it's probably not the best. I mean, like, here's the thing. I'm all about long-term permanent weight management. And for a lot of people, they want to have a glass of wine with dinner. They want to have their thing. You can make that happen. So it's not like you have to give up alcohol to have long-term permanent weight management. Not at all. But like I said, if it's stalling, if it's creating overeating, that is when we want to start to, just start to look at things. So obviously, alcohol has added empty calories, meaning there's no nutritive value really, unless, I mean, you could argue red wine has resveratrol or however you would pronounce that, and it can lengthen your life or whatever, but from a nutrient, macronutrient value, not really adding. And when you're releasing weight, you want to leverage the energy that you're taking in food, to be the most nutritious and, enjoyable and stabilizing foods. And again, I'm not saying you can't have a drink, but, a drink a day, 2 drinks a day are going to add a lot of empty calories to that and make it harder to release weight. Alcohol also gets burned first by the body. So any other calories get stored and it actually slows down the fat burning process and it can lead to fatty liver, which of course we don't want. And then you've probably noticed, especially you ladies over 45, that it can impact your sleep, making you more tired and more prone to eat the next day. And I don't know about you guys, but I really do notice it really depends on what I drink. I generally will, if I have a drink, I'll drink either red wine or maybe something like a gin and diet tonic or something like that, or vodka and tonic. But, if I drink a glass of wine or a glass and a half of wine or 2 glasses of wine on those occasions, I'm hungrier the next day. And I know that just is going to happen. I prepare for it. So I've managed that, but it can make you start craving things the next day. Then that can throw you off and then, away you go. So, and it really actually also keeps your body from absorbing nutrients. So on a day-to-day basis, if you're doing it every day, again, just, not a long-term plan for vital and ideal health. So it makes sense if you feel like your relationship with alcohol has become challenging for your weight, your sleep, your life in general. It might make sense to try your own mindful drinking challenge. And again, if you did dry January, good for you. But unless you want a wet February where all those old habits return, because it's very easy to just go right back to where you were before, because that's what the brain is wired for, right? So we seriously want to start to uncouple and reframe this relationship. So this, so that you're going at this not from all or nothing, but you're creating a happy and new reframed medium that will really, support you, again, in your long-term permanent weight mastery journey. So let's dive into mindful drinking and how it can be part of your long-term weight management journey. So, and if, like I said earlier, if you need to stop altogether, I am sorry, but this episode probably isn't for you. It's not about that, but there is a book that I always recommend. I probably recommend this book 2 times a day, or at least 5 times a week. And that is a book called, and it's, I recommend this for people who want to stop drinking and are not ready for or do not like the idea of a 12-step program. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of options out there if you want to stop drinking. I know there doesn't seem like there are a lot of options, but there is a great book and a great woman. Her name is Annie Grace. And you may have heard of her, and she has a podcast. It's called This Naked Mind, and she has a book called This Naked Mind. And she is, this book has helped, and I've had a lot of people say, oh my gosh, this book helped me really change my relationship with alcohol and be able to put it down. She doesn't use hypnosis, but she uses hypnotic techniques in her writing. It's a great book. And so if you are struggling, really struggling with alcohol, more than just feeling like it's kind of getting in the way of your weight management, you might want to check out that book. Or check her out, because I think she has some bigger online courses as well. Now, I was never, how do I say this? I was never a huge drinker per se. For me, I was always about food. I was always about the carbs. I was always about the sugar. Now, there's sugar in alcohol, right? So if I would go to a dinner party or to a party, and many, many times this happened, I would start drinking before I ate anything. Then I would just end up drinking a lot, right? And usually I would go for the sugary drink, the margarita or whatever. And then I could end up being in trouble because I would just drink way too much. And that happened to me many, many times, in my 20s and my 30s, my early 30s, until I shifted and kind of changed my relationship with all of that, and definitely stopped drinking sugary drinks, which, definitely were, compounding that, and then eating way too much and all of that stuff. So one of the reasons I would drink is because I have social anxiety, or I had social anxiety, especially at that time. And, because I was such a weight struggler, I was so super self-conscious. So I would go to parties. I would worry about what I was wearing. I always thought everybody was looking at me. So I would also drink just to kind of be funny, to calm down, and to not feel so socially awkward, because I felt like a big, awkward, nerdy, overweight person. And it, it allowed me to feel like it turned that critic off in my head. But of course, obviously, after overeating and over drinking, that critic was wide awake the next morning, because she didn't drink. She was just ready there to whip me into place after, after the night, after me and my rebel had a good time. So, when I shifted, I started getting mindful about many things, including alcohol. And since my social anxiety was often at the root of why I needed a drink, so I was focused on drinking less at social events. So I'll say that again, because I think that came out weird. I made a project of drinking less at social events. And how I did that first was, it wasn't like, I'm not going to drink at social events, but I'm going to get my head on for the social event, meaning I'm going to love myself before I even go to the social event. I'm going to give myself permission to leave early. I meditated on what I could talk about, who I wanted to connect with at that party. I really wanted to bring a lot of meaning to the party above and beyond eating and drinking. So being social for me, I had to shift my focus from food and drink to, what I wanted to create for the party, which was, connecting with people. And I'm not maybe the greatest person in groups sometimes. I mean, I can be, but I know you're like, Rita, you're the biggest blabbermouth in the world. But I have, and my daughter has social anxiety. She's really working on that now. Both my children are. And I'm very proud of them, because, they've noticed it. They're working their own program around that. So good for them. And this is without drinking or, having to get stoned, but, like really being present and in themselves and all of that stuff. And I'm just so proud of them. So social anxiety is a really big thing for a lot of us. And I think a lot of and now with COVID, I think a lot of us, we can do a whole episode on social anxiety. That's above and beyond probably thin thinking, but there's, I think a lot of us, because we've become so insular with our life as in lockdown, that, a lot more kids have social anxiety and a lot more adults have social anxiety. So, a whole other topic some other time. But anyway, so I often limit, so for me in my personal life, in my long-term permanent weight mastery life, alcohol is not a daily event for me at all. I'm there, I will go, I'm primarily have married alcohol to going out and seeing friends and being social. But I do enjoy a good glass of wine definitely here and there. And there will be, certain nights in the summer where I might have a diet tonic and gin and, really enjoy it. But yeah, it hasn't, I'm really grateful that it didn't become a huge habit during my life. But I definitely have helped a lot of people kind of look at, reframing their relationship with alcohol. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to talk through how to start to do this. So first of all, I would invite you to take an assessment of your relationship with alcohol. And when you do this, you don't want to self-shame. You want to just really take ownership of it. You know what I mean? Not like, well, I drink, but I drink because I work so hard and, I just really need that drink to take the edge off. And it's like, no, it's just like, okay, I get home at 6 and I pour a glass of wine. I'm going to take ownership of that. And I'm not going to, and again, it is what it is. Just take ownership. On the weekends, I drink a bottle of wine with my friends, or I drink a bottle of wine and whatever it is, or I have 3 beers, or I pour myself a cocktail. I can't wait to have it at 4:30 or whatever. Whatever it is, just take a nice breath in and just kind of scan your week. Think about your week or think about your month, because maybe it's not a daily thing. Maybe it's 3 times a week. Maybe it's 3 times a month. So the first question is, how often are you drinking and how much are you drinking? So just get clear on that and take ownership. Just like, get facts, get data. We're taking data here. We're just like, okay, we're a data collector. We're kind of like a scientist. Okay, how much? Okay. And how much of what you're drinking do you savor and enjoy? And how much is just sheer Pavlovian trigger response? Like, check this out. Like, if you ever sit down and like for instance, and I don't know how much you've listened to any of my podcasts or know me or know my programs or anything. So, but there is this thing. So after 3 bites, 3 sips of any, anything, our mouth experience goes, from 90% down to 20%. So if we're, like even drinking a really beautiful glass of wine, after about 3 sips, the experience of that on your palate is going to be significantly reduced. Or if you're having a cocktail and it's really tasty, after a few sips, your mind's going to move on. You're going to, think about pouring the drink. Most of why we drink is an agitation relief response. Meaning our brain expects the drink. It will agitate us to get the drink. That's the dopamine center in the brain kind of agitating us. I want it, I want it, I want it. Kind of like a ringing phone, right? The phone rings, it bugs you, right? And then when you pick up the phone, relief, right? So a lot of why we think drinking relaxes us is if we expect it, we get agitated, and then the moment we take a sip, relief, right? And then we're like, oh, drinking relaxes us, which it really doesn't ultimately. It doesn't. There's an initial bump up, but ultimately drinking is a depressant. So anyway, like really notice how much of your drinking, like if you drink 3 glasses of wine a night, how much of that are you really savoring and enjoying? And how much of it is just like drink 1 glass and then the phone starts ringing for the second glass. And then the phone starts ringing for the third glass. Do you know what I mean? So because whatever your brain expects as a pattern, it's going to ring the phone for you to finish the pattern, right? So if you've got into a habit, it's going to want the habit fulfilled. So that's how we get stuck in these things, is the brain just wants it again and again, even though we could be saying consciously, but I don't feel good. I'm gaining weight. I don't like drinking so much on weeknights. It makes me feel bad in the morning. We could say all that stuff to ourselves, but our subconscious mind has already decided, I like 3 drinks. I expect 3 drinks. You're going to give me 3 drinks. Okay. So, but just notice, like, I want you to get present to this, because this is how we start to make take the conscious subconscious. Like, we really want to start to do liminal learning, which is like taking that stuff from the conscious mind down to the subconscious. And we start to do that by getting really present without judgment, right? So just notice, like, how much of those beverages that you're drinking are you really enjoying and savoring? And now the next question is, how many calories are you drinking? How many calories are you drinking? Like, if you really sat down and looked at like a glass of wine, depending on this pour. All right, we could do a whole comedy show on the different sizes of wine glasses, right? How many, there was like a birthday card I got from my friend, and it was like this big, huge wine glass. And, literally the one wine glass took a whole bottle of wine, right? So, your glass of wine might be, that glass, or it might be a teeny tiny little glass. Or, your drink, whatever, that drink may be. So, just get curious, because if you're drinking like, 300 calories a day of wine, 300 times 7, if you're doing that every single night, that's 2,100 calories. That's over a half a pound of calories. I'm just saying, it's just like, sometimes we just think, oh, well, it's wine, and wine's like 100 calories a glass. But if you're doing that every night, and then, then maybe that opens up the door to the cheese and crackers, or but for right now, we're just looking at, like, how much are we drinking? Do we enjoy it? How many calories are in it? Just to get, again, present. Do you notice that your drinking makes you hungrier, and that you eat differently? Like, maybe if you eat more dinner, maybe you eat less. Maybe you eat crap, when you drink. Maybe it opens the door. It's kind of the gateway to ordering takeout, or ordering candy, or, some other carby sort of things, because the sugar brain's kind of gotten taken over. So is that a problem for you? Like, and this is not an interrogation. Again, this is an assessment. We're being scientists right now. We're just collecting data. Are you hungrier the next day? Just like I was saying, I am. So if I am going to drink, I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to drink. I'm going to be hungrier tomorrow, but I will figure that out. So, I'll make sure the next morning that I will eat something that's very protein oriented, so that I'm stabilizing my blood sugar. I definitely try to eat something before I have alcohol, because I find that if I drink it on an empty stomach, it impacts my brain, much more quickly. And it makes me hungrier right then and there on the spot. And I might eat more than if I maybe eat a little something before I go to the party or go see my friends. And then I'm not, that first glass of wine or that drink isn't going to impact me as much or impact my appetite as much. So here's another question: is your drinking habit keeping you from a relationship and or connecting with others or yourself? So like for instance, I have clients who have said to me that they'll drink and, they might come home from work, they'll be really tired and exhausted, and they'll drink and they'll kind of go sit in the room and like be on their phone and have a glass of wine, and then they aren't interacting with their family, like their kids or their husband. It's just kind of like me time. It's me time. And a lot of times, sometimes this might be somebody who might be a smoking client as well. So they might go outside and smoke and have a drink of wine. And again, there's part of them that feels horrible about it because they're like, I should be in there with my kids. Or, like my husband's like in there watching TV. And I get it. Like and we'll talk about that. Like there's all this stuff that goes around the drink and what it equals in your brain. But is it right now keeping you connecting with others or yourself? Because when we drink, it is, we might be sitting on our own and drinking, or we might be connecting with others and drinking, but it's definitely a different relationship with ourselves than when we're sober. So, I'm not saying you don't have a relationship with yourself when you drink, but is it the kind of relationship that you, are, want to nurture? And it might be, but this is what, just be a scientist about it. And, your drinking might be impacting your relationship with yourself in that after you drink, like when you wake up the next morning, you just might be spending a lot of time beating yourself up about it and feeling guilty. And, again, then that's impacting your relationship with yourself. It's impacting your ability to feel good about yourself and confident. If you're beating yourself up about it. If you're not, then great. But if you're being critical of yourself, then obviously it's impacting your relationship with yourself. So take a moment and think about any other things your current drinking habit may, have over you or be doing for you, negative or good. This is your time to explore. You're being the scientist. Okay. And now just take a nice deep breath in and take ownership of all of it. No shame. Just forgive yourself for anything you need to forgive yourself for, and just let go of the shame and own it all. I own that habit. And now we want to get creative. We want to put our creative hat on, because what we don't want to do is this idea of like taking away, like, I can't do that. I have to stop doing that. Because again, coming from shame and coming from deprivation, the brain doesn't like that and it doesn't understand that. But the brain loves to be creative. So what we want to create is what you would like to do, like your new relationship with alcohol, right? So we aren't slapping your hand and saying you can't drink on Monday nights. That's not allowed. It's just like, what would you like if you had to look at your day, your week, and a new relationship with alcohol that empowered you, that, gave you a sense of freedom or whatever you wanted to create with that relationship with alcohol? What would that look like? It might be not drinking at all. And it might be drinking every other night, or it might be, I have a friend, and she really believes in the, she isn't a drinker at all, but she started drinking like a thimble full or like a shot glass full of red wine every night, because she said the health effects of, the red wine. She started doing that like after dinner. So not with dinner, not at the end of the day, but just like really pretty much at night before she goes to bed at night. So that was her relationship with alcohol, right? So what, and really, what would that do for your life? I want you to think about that. Like, what would it do for your life to be mastering your relationship with alcohol rather than it mastering you? Now, one of our challengers in our mindful drinking challenge committed to drink one drink 7 days a week. Like, so one drink every one of the 7 days, because she was drinking 2 or more glasses of whatever per day. And so she just says, you know what? I'm going to do one, and that's it. I'm not going to not drink, but I'm going to do one. And she's had a really great month. She is sleeping better. She's feeling better. She's been really creative with, she'll have the drink and then she'll have these other non-alcoholic beverages, these kind of mocktails. And she's just had a fun time. So that really worked for her. One of the other members, she cut back to 3 to 4 times per week. So she decided, I'm not going to drink every day. I'm going to drink on the weekends and maybe like Thursday, Friday. She's, in a holiday situation at the moment. So she's drinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I believe. And, one of our members was the weekends only. And then one just cut it out altogether. And there were many who did that as well. So there's many different ways that you can create this new relationship with drinking. Again, don't think about taking away, thinking about create something new. Would you only like to drink socially? That for me is so easy. That because it's just not an option any other time. Like I don't really think about it at night if we're making dinner. No, even if I've had a bad day, it's just like, no, I only drink socially, and socially isn't with my husband and my son. It's when I go out with friends. So how do we shift our mindset? Remember, you're dealing, my friends, with the subconscious, our lovely subconscious. And in our subconscious is our identity, it's our habits, and our beliefs. Okay? So the first thing we want to do, I always like to start with the identity piece of it, because our identity is at the top of the subconscious mind. Right there, sitting at the top. So we might see ourselves as like, have an identity of like, oh, I like to drink. Or I'm I have an identity. I'm a social drinker, and I'm a one or two, maybe 3 on a fun night glasses, but I'm definitely like, I have like a limit, and I see myself as primarily a social drinker. But what about you? What identity would you like to create? And what I mean by that is maybe you see yourself as like, if you've been seeing yourself as like, I have a drinking problem, or I'm a lush, or if you have these terms that you use with yourself that are maybe derogatory, or maybe they're just, disempowering. Your brain has kind of, that identity is kind of swirling around with all your other identities. And when we're like trying not to be a lush, the brain doesn't get that. But we want to step into a new identity, like I drink 3 times a week. Sorry, my notes fell off there. I drink 3 times a week. Or I'm a weekend. I like to have a drink on the weekend. I'm somebody who drinks 1 drink and then I cut myself off. Like whatever it is, but you're stepping in to that identity and adapting to it rather than trying not to be the 3-drink drinker. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So we want to start with our identity and then acknowledge that. Let's talk about habit. So like we said earlier, you have a pattern, and that pattern of drinking, whatever it is, like I'm going to just say, like, let's say you were a 2 drink a day drinker. And, your first drink you expected when you knocked off work, and the second one was, for dinner, right? So your brain has patterned that in. Especially if it's been every day, somewhere around 5 o'clock, your brain will start to go, we're going to have that drink. And you might have even been thinking about it earlier because, see, in your mind, your subconscious, that drink, that glass of wine isn't, crushed grapes that have been filtered and gone through this very, intricate process and put in a bottle, and then you pour it in a glass. It's also everything it represents. It represents, I'm off work. It's a reward. I don't have to think about a thing now, right? You see what I'm saying? It's like that glass of wine, that cocktail isn't alcohol in a glass. It represents so much to you. It's connecting with my friend. It's being bad girls. It's, being a rebel. It's saying, I don't care. Screw you to the boss. It's screw you to my family. Like all these, it represents so much more than just the alcohol. So it's really helpful to understand that when we're trying, or, like if you pour that glass of wine and you go sit down and you put your feet up and you watch the news or you look at your phone or you talk to your husband, everything going on around that is that glass of wine. So the glass of wine or the cocktail is a portal into an experience that you value, right? So when we try to take away the drink, it's in our mind, it's like we're taking away all the stuff that goes on around it. And that is hard to do. So we don't want to do that. So what we want to do is instead create our new non-drinking self-care structure. So like if you're going to cut out alcohol except for a few nights a week, on those nights that you're choosing to abstain, you can still sit down at the end of the workday. You can still get on your phone or talk to your husband or do those things. I'm watching the news as alcohol-free. Or I'm watching the news as I'm alcohol-free, or I'm only drinking on the weekends. And what you're doing is reintroducing yourself in that situation to yourself. Now, you might decide to do something different. You might decide, well, shoot, if I'm not going to pour a glass of wine, I'm going to do what I really want to do, which is put on my shoes and go for a run or work out or make a healthy dinner or, so it may change what you do, but what you're doing is creating a self-care structure, because right now your brain will start to, like I said, like ring. It will start to, the drink phone in your brain will start to ring maybe around 4 if you expect that 5 o'clock cocktail, and maybe even earlier. So you might be having a really hard work day at 2 o'clock and think about your drink, not because you really want the drink, but because thinking about the drink calms your brain down, because that drink represents so many things. And it's all about relaxation and reward. And it's sending these feel-good neurotransmitters to your brain in that moment of stress, right? So we may think like, oh my God, I'm thinking about drinking at 2 o'clock. You're not really. Yes, you are. But what your brain is trying to do is just calm you down. And that's what we do with food too. We might be thinking about brownies or cookies or cake, but we're really sending these neurotransmitters to our brain that like flood us with good feelings. Sorry, my notes keep falling off. So does that make sense to you? So take away the shame around that, but recognize that phone will start to ring. So you want to say, oh, there's that thought of that drink, but isn't that great? I'm now rewarding myself and giving myself pleasure and relaxation by running. I'm rewarding myself by giving myself permission to sit down and have a cup of iced tea and talk to my husband, right? So you're moving the brain along. You're saying, we're not going to do that. Oh, look at that. There's that thought. But what we're going to do, it's not like we're substituting. Substituting is, what you don't want to do is do it without a drink, like in your mind, or substituting, because I'm substituting the iced tea for my wine. That will seem like really lame to your brain. It will be like, what? Iced tea instead of wine? But what you're doing is refocusing your brain on who you are. Oh, I'm alcohol-free at night, and I'm enjoying this iced tea with my husband. It's not like I'm trying not to drink my wine and I'm trying to have this iced tea instead. We don't want to really have any try not. We're really refocusing on who we are and what we're doing in that moment. You with me? I hope this is all making sense, because this is like all about redirecting the mind and creating a new pattern, or creating a pattern that is similar, that gives you the same payoff, which is relaxing and reward at the end of the day, but as alcohol free. So now, to begin to do this, whatever you choose, whatever pattern you choose, you want to start to mentally practice in the morning. See, because once you get to 4 o'clock, the train has left the station. So you want to think this all through in the morning, because you have the most willpower in the morning. That's why, for my members and in the Shift Weight Mastery process, we have morning meditations, because it's a roadmap through your day, right? It's creating that, it's a mental practice ahead of time, which gives you a lot more power and a lot more willpower in the moment, because the time 5 o'clock rolls around, you've made so many decisions and done so much in your day, you have zero willpower and impulse control left. So we want to borrow and leverage our willpower from the morning by really thinking this through in the morning. Okay. So now, and don't look at the alcohol as, don't look at it as like, oh, I'm substituting something for my drink. I'm just like, oh, this is my non-alcoholic beverage that I'm enjoying as I relax. So you're focusing on what you have, not what you're replacing. Okay. Because, up until you were 21, or, well, let's face it, some of us started drinking before the legal drinking age. You didn't need alcohol for anything. You lived a full, happy life. You think of like how crazy you were as a kid or teenager or whatever. I mean, you had a lot of joy and relaxation and reward prior to imbibing. And then the moment you drank, it was like, oh, there was this little void that now needs to be filled. And we want to fill up those voids. We don't want to be like replacing them. We want to be like, no, I'm full and complete as I am. And now I'm creating my alcohol-free or my new mindful drinking lifestyle. I'm going to pour myself my 1 glass of wine and just completely enjoy it. And when it's done, it's done. I'm getting on with my mindful drinking evening by sipping on my cup of tea, after dinner. And you can create some fun alcohol-free beverages. I'm not saying you can't do that, but I'm just saying don't be like, I'm substituting this for that. So some of our members found soda and bitters was a really nice cocktail. And I'm not going to say that Angostura, I think so. I remember when I was a bartender way back in the day, as a waitress, bartender / type person, that was definitely something, if you weren't going to drink, that could be, your non-alcoholic beverage, or there are a lot of mocktails. If you go online now, there's lots of fun mocktails, or you can just drink some water or a cup of tea. I mean, I'm such a huge fan of tea. Tea in the evening. I drink chamomile. I drink mint tea. I just find them so relaxing, and especially here in the middle of winter, it's my go-to for pretty much everything. And, if you're going to go out and be social, plan that too. If you're going to have one drink, plan when in the evening you're going to have that drink. What is going to, I realized by getting super mindful about social drinking that the best drink for me was probably that drink before dinner. But once dinner really started, I didn't really even enjoy the alcohol because I'm a food person. So I was like, that's a waste of calories. But I enjoyed, that the social aspect of having that glass prior to dinner, right? So I really got mindful of when what beverage or what time, in that, social event. And let's face it, certain people, you may feel like, I don't even need to drink with them. We have such a good time. We chat, you know them so well. It's just like, you don't drink or no drink, you just have a ball. And then there's those people that you need a drink with. Well, and I'm not going to say you need a drink, but you're just like, I'm going to have it. And it may be because they have the most amazing wine cellar in the face of the planet. It may be because they're a little edgy and, or they, you just have a glass of wine with them, or you have that whiskey, or I don't know, whatever. But, get clear. And again, this is a chance just to get mindful and ask yourself, well, what do I really need? What do I really value? And what is fun really? What is reward really? Really, do I need a drink in order to put up with this person? Maybe then I don't want to be putting up with this person. Those are the questions. When you get mindful and conscious, it changes. Let's talk about beliefs. I can't relax without a drink. Drinking makes me a better conversationalist. Drinking is a reward. So let's, think for a moment take a deep breath in and close your eyes, and just think about sitting with a drink and sipping it slowly. Or you could do this even with a drink, the next time you have a drink. And just start to notice the impact that that drink has on your body without any distractions. And you might start to notice that, I can't relax without a drink. But when you start to really sit with an alcoholic beverage and without other people, without looking at your phone, without just anything, you might feel relaxed in the beginning, but you start to feel then a little off. There's other physiological experiences that are put into play, like your brain getting a little off. Just the different sensations going on in your body, your balance and your motor skills, slowly start to get imbalanced. So that relaxing, like I said, you might get a little bump up initially, but then you start to feel, it can become a depressant. And that belief, like, drinking makes me a better conversationalist. Again, get really present to that. Does it really? I mean, you may, like I said, you loosen up a little bit, maybe if you have a drink in the beginning, but ultimately, if you keep drinking, haven't you ever noticed a group of people, like, have you ever been sober with a bunch of people who are drinking? And haven't you noticed that they kind of just start saying the same thing over and over again, telling the same story over and over again? So, your conversational skills may be lubricated in the beginning a little bit, but they quickly can go downhill, especially if you've had too much to drink. And then again, that idea that drinking is a reward, it might be a reward in the beginning, when you sit down and put your feet up and everything. But is it a reward at the end of the night? Is it a reward when you feel bad about yourself? Is it a reward when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, foggy headed and not feeling good? And, so really when you get present to those beliefs and start poking holes in them, they begin to dissipate. You begin to get it's called a reframe. You get to see it from a different perspective. So I hope that this has been helpful for that. Now, one other thing you could do is use a mantra or an affirmation like, I am becoming a mindful drinker. So I can't relax without a drink. Well, as I become a mindful drinker, I find that I can relax without any alcohol. In fact, I relax more. So what you're doing is starting out like, I am becoming, so you're restating your identity, or I am moving in the direction of managing stress as an alcohol-free person. So if you come up with a mantra, mantras are really great because you can repeat them over and over again, and they really do get into your mind. And the interesting thing is the good feelings from, like that you perceive that you get from alcohol actually come from your body interacting with alcohol. Your body is perfectly capable of creating all these amazing feel-good feelings. And ultimately, when we become dependent on alcohol, it kind of robs us of our body of that ability. And it actually, alcohol strips amino acids from the brain, and kind of drives the need for it harder. So, there's so many different biochemical things that go into play when we drink alcohol. And again, I'm not saying to be a teetotaler if you enjoy it, but just if you are listening to this episode and you hear what I'm saying, I hope this has made sense to you to kind of just take a breath and reframe, take the shame away and say, what am I willing to do? What can I create? Who can I be with that? And step into this new idea and start to shift that habit. Now, here is the deal. In honor of February, I am going to offer just this episode, my bottoms up, weight down hypnosis and pre-drinking preparation. So there's a hypnosis session for, drinking less for weight management. It's not drinking, but drinking less for weight management. And also there's this I love this pre-meditation kind of that you would listen to before you go out or before the evening. It's just like, how many drinks do I want to have? It's kind of like a mindfulness practice. And I'm offering it for 50% off. And it's in the Shift store, which is, a bunch of weight management downloads, the hypnosis downloads. So the link is in the show notes, and then the coupon code is also in the show notes. As of this recording, I'm not quite sure what the coupon code is. I think it's going to be free. I mean, not like free, but like alcohol free, right? Okay. Maybe that is a bad coupon code. Let's scratch that. We'll just say, we'll come up with a good one and you'll just be surprised. And so just enjoy that. I really like it. It's one of our most popular downloads. So I hope you enjoyed our little discussion here about drinky poos. And I hope you have an amazing week and beginning of your February. And remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. And I look forward to going through February with you. Thanks for listening to the Thin Thinking Podcast. Did that episode go by way too fast for you? If so, and you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release, head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking, Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss, and to learn how to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode.